Zarvok sat in the middle of the library, wings folded tightly around his massive body, staring at the glowing page before him. The library was not ordinary, it floated among the stars, a vast structure of glass and metal, filled with thousands of hovering scrolls, data crystals, and knowledge from 1,000 worlds. Light from distant suns spilled through the walls, painting the room in streaks of gold and silver. Despite all this, Zarvok felt only frustration. He had tried. He had really tried. His claws hovered over the shimmering keyboard as he thought of the story he wanted to tell. It was about a mountain that could walk and a river that sang. He imagined the words in his mind, bright and alive. But as soon as he typed, the letters twisted. Mao, Riv. He tried, but the letters curved, shimmered, and disappeared. Words that should have made sense became shapes, curves, and symbols he could not control. A small alarm pinged, signaling the next writing test was about to begin. Zarvok groaned and shook his massive head. Galactic scholars had come from far corners of the universe to watch this test. They were here because dragons were supposed to be wise, clever, and capable of incredible things. Writing, however, was proving impossible for him. Every other dragon before him had at least managed a simple sentence. Zarvok had not even managed that. Your time begins, a soft voice echoed through the library. It belonged to Mira, a human administrator who monitored the test. She had bright green eyes and an expression that mixed curiosity and kindness. Begin, Zarvok. Zarvok lowered his claws to the keyboard again. He thought of the story he wanted to tell and tried once more. The mountain, he typed, and a single letter appeared. Then it bent, stretched, and fell off the page like melted metal. Zarvok roared quietly, a sound that made the scrolls tremble but startled no one. I cannot do this, he muttered, shaking his great head. His golden eyes, sharp and intelligent, looked over the rows of floating books. He had mastered flying through meteor storms, swimming in molten lava, and even speaking dozens of languages. He had solved puzzles no other dragon could. But writing defeated him. Mira watched him carefully. She stepped closer, her boots making no sound on the hovering floor. It is not the words that are difficult, Zarvok, she said. It is how you feel them. Writing is not about strength or magic. It is about patience. You need to see the story, not force it onto the page. Zarvok snorted. I have patience. I wait 1,000 years for eggs to hatch. I watch the stars for centuries. Yet, the words vanish. They vanish because you try to use your mind to move them, Mira said softly. Try using your heart instead. Zarvok blinked. His heart? How could a dragon's heart write letters? He looked at the glowing screen again, took a deep breath, and tried to think not of letters, not of rules, but of the mountain he had imagined. He thought of the river that sang, the way its water sparkled like crystal under 2 suns. He thought of the wind that laughed through the trees and the scent of wildflowers at dawn. And still, when he typed, the letters twisted and disappeared. Zarvok growled, frustrated more than ever. He closed his eyes and leaned back, wings brushing against the walls. Why can't I do this? Why must it be so simple for humans? Mira watched silently. She understood dragons, their pride, their struggle, and their stubbornness. But this test was not about pride. It was about discovery. Zarvok needed someone to show him the first steps, not just words but the meaning behind them. The library doors opened quietly and an old man stepped in. He moved slowly, leaning on a wooden cane, his silver hair shining under the library lights. His eyes, sharp and bright, scanned the room with a mixture of amusement and curiosity. Ah, he said in a soft voice. So this is the dragon who cannot write. Zarvok lifted his head. And who are you? His voice rumbled like distant thunder. The old man did not seem afraid. I am Nathaniel, the man said, smiling. I write stories. I have told them for a long time, longer than you have lived. Zarvok frowned. A human? You think you can teach me? Nathaniel chuckled. I do not think. I know. He walked closer and tapped the glowing page with a gnarled finger. Writing is not about claws or fire. It is about seeing what you already know and sharing it in a way others can understand. You have stories in your mind, Zarvok. I can help you reach them. Zarvok stared at the human. He had never met one who spoke with such calm confidence. Even if I cannot control the letters? Especially then, Nathaniel said. The letters will follow once your mind and heart are ready. For the first time in many weeks, Zarvok felt a spark of hope. He lowered his head and watched the old man sit beside him on a floating bench. The human did not reach for the keyboard. He only watched, waited, and smiled. The test alarm rang again, but this time, Zarvok ignored it. He turned to Nathaniel. Then, show me. Teach me how to begin. Nathaniel nodded. We begin with the smallest things. One letter. One word. One thought. Nothing more. Zarvok felt a strange excitement he had not felt before. It was not the thrill of flight or the challenge of a hunt, but a gentle stirring deep inside him. The dragon realized that writing was not a battle. It was a journey, and for the first time he would not face it alone. He looked at the glowing page. One letter, one tiny mark, waited for him. And with Nathaniel beside him, Zarvok took a deep breath, lifted a claw and touched the keyboard. The letters shimmered, wobbled, and did not vanish immediately. Zarvok's golden eyes widened. He tried again slowly, patiently. And as the first word finally appeared, he felt something he had never known, the quiet joy of creating. The library, vast and silent, seemed to watch. The stars outside glimmered as if waiting to see what this dragon, who had failed every trial, would write next. Zarvok smiled, a slow and careful smile, and whispered, maybe I can do this. And for the first time the dragon believed it. Zarvok blinked as Nathaniel settled on the floating bench beside him. The dragon's massive head tilted, curious and cautious. The human seemed so small, so fragile, and yet there was a calm strength in his eyes. Zarvok had spent centuries mastering the skies, understanding the oceans of molten lava, and reading the subtle languages of stars. But this human, he felt different. You are patient, Zarvok said, his voice low and rolling like distant thunder. I do not understand how you can sit there and watch me fail. Nathaniel smiled. Patience is the first tool of a writer, he said. And you are not failing, Zarvok. You are learning. Every mistake is a step forward. Zarvok snorted, a small puff of smoke escaping his nostrils. I have made 1,000 mistakes. Still the words vanish. Still the letters dance and hide. That is because you try to use your mind to force them, Nathaniel said softly. Writing is not about force. It is about seeing. The letters, the words, the sentences, they are waiting for you. You only need to notice them. The dragon lowered his massive claws and rested them on the glowing keyboard. He could feel the hum of the library beneath him, the quiet vibration of knowledge floating through the air. Then, show me. Teach me how to notice. Nathaniel leaned forward and placed a hand on the dragon's claw. It was tiny against Zarvok's massive scales, but Zarvok did not pull away. The old human's touch was gentle, steady, reassuring. We start with small things, Nathaniel said. A single letter. A single word. One thought at a time. Zarvok watched as Nathaniel wrote a simple word on a floating pad. Sun. The letters glowed softly. Nathaniel spoke each letter slowly, clearly. Sunday. Can you see it? Zarvok's eyes narrowed. I see shapes. But they mean nothing. Nathaniel nodded. Then we make them mean something. Close your eyes. Think of the sun. Feel it. The warmth, the light, the way it rises and sets. Now open your eyes and write what you feel. The dragon hesitated. He was used to feeling power, to sensing movement, to reading the stars. But feelings? Thoughts that were soft, quiet, and patient? That was strange. He breathed deeply, imagining the sun over a distant planet, imagining the way its light spilled over mountains and rivers, imagining the warmth against his scales. He lifted a claw, trembling slightly. The first letter appeared. It was crooked, glowing faintly. He tried again. It wavered, almost gone. And there it stayed. The word shimmered softly on the pad. Nathaniel's eyes twinkled. Very good, Zarvok. You see? You are noticing. The letters are listening. Zarvok felt a strange thrill. He had never been so careful with something so small, yet it felt important. It stayed, he whispered. It did not vanish. That is because it came from your heart, not your claws, Nathaniel said. Stories begin when we let our heart guide us. You have many stories, Zarvok. We only need to uncover them. The dragon leaned back, staring at the glowing word. For a long moment he said nothing. The library floated silently, filled with the quiet hum of data crystals and distant stars. Then, almost without realizing it, he tried another word. River. The letters appeared again, shimmering, imperfect but real. Zarvok felt a surge of pride he had not known in centuries. I did it again. Nathaniel nodded. You did. And each time you try it will become easier. You will learn the rhythm of words, the music of sentences. But it will take patience. Every writer, human or dragon, learns this. Zarvok's golden eyes softened. Then, you will stay? You will teach me. Nathaniel smiled. I will stay as long as you need. We will begin small and we will grow together. Soon your stories will be your own and the universe will listen. The dragon's wings twitched. He had always been proud, strong, and independent. But somehow, sitting beside this quiet human, he felt calm, safe, encouraged. He realized that learning was not weakness. Even a dragon could grow. Even a dragon could change. Over the next hours, Nathaniel guided Zarvok through simple exercises. They started with letters, moved to words, and practiced short sentences. Nathaniel encouraged Zarvok to describe what he saw, what he felt, and what he imagined. At first, the sentences were awkward. Sun warm, river shine, sky blue, but Nathaniel never corrected harshly. He only smiled and showed Zarvok how to expand the ideas, how to combine words, how to paint pictures with letters. Zarvok was fascinated. He had always thought writing would be simple, just putting thoughts on a page. But he discovered it was more than that. It was seeing clearly, feeling clearly, and sharing clearly. Each small word was a victory, each tiny sentence a triumph. At one point, Zarvok tried to describe the stars outside the library windows. Stars, like fireflies, fly in dark sky. His words were broken, uneven, but Nathaniel read them aloud. And as he read, the dragon realized something amazing. The words had power. They could paint pictures. They could make someone feel what he felt. Zarvok's tail twitched with excitement. I can do this, he whispered. I think I am learning. Nathaniel patted the dragon's claw. You are learning, yes. And one day, Zarvok, you will write stories that others will remember long after we are gone. But we begin with small steps, and today you took your first ones. The library seemed to glow brighter as the dragon considered this. He realized that learning to write was not about showing strength or magic. It was about patience, curiosity, and trust. And for the first time he trusted that he could succeed. As the stars shifted outside the windows, Zarvok and Nathaniel continued their work, a dragon and a human learning together. The library, once a place of failure and frustration, now felt like a workshop of possibility. Every glowing letter, every shimmering word, was a step forward, a small victory in a journey that had only just begun. Zarvok leaned closer to Nathaniel. Tomorrow we will try again? Nathaniel smiled. Tomorrow and the day after and every day after that. We will see what stories your heart wants to tell. And for the first time in his long life, Zarvok felt something beyond pride or power. He felt hope. Zarvok's claws hovered above the glowing keyboard, a little less tense than before. Beside him, Nathaniel watched quietly, his hands folded over his notebook. The dragon had learned the first steps, letters, words, tiny sentences, but the real challenge was coming, learning to tell a story. Today, Nathaniel said softly, we learned the language of stories. Zarvok tilted his head. Stories? I thought I already knew stories. I see mountains, rivers, and stars every day. Nathaniel smiled. You see them. But seeing is not enough. A story is sharing what you see in a way that others can feel it. You have to use words to carry the pictures from your mind into theirs. Zarvok considered this. He had flown through storms, explored craters of molten rock, and even solved riddles older than some planets. But conveying thoughts with words, that was new. A little excitement stirred in his chest. Nathaniel handed him a small floating tablet. Let's begin with simple sentences. Tell me about the river you saw yesterday. Zarvok thought for a moment. He imagined the water sparkling under twin suns, the gentle waves singing against smooth stones. River, bright, shine, he typed. Nathaniel nodded. Good. Now add what it feels like. Not just what you see. Zarvok frowned. Feel. He had never thought of the river as something to feel. But slowly, he remembered the cool mist brushing his scales, the soft rumble of water over rocks, the quiet comfort it gave him after flying through hot winds. River, bright, shine, cool, soft, calm. Nathaniel read it aloud and Zarvok realized something amazing. The words painted pictures. Not perfect pictures but real ones. Someone reading this could imagine the river almost as he saw it. His claws twitched with excitement. Now, Nathaniel continued, we connect the sentences. One sentence can lead to another. You describe, then you tell what happens, then you share how it feels. Try that. Zarvok's mind spun. He imagined the river again, saw a small fish jumping, felt the sunlight on the water. Slowly, carefully he typed, river bright, shine, fish jump, water moves, sun warm. The letters wavered, some crooked, but Nathaniel did not stop him. Good, Nathaniel said. You are beginning to weave sentences together. Keep adding small details. Each word has meaning, each sentence carries a step of the story. The dragon felt a strange thrill. He realized that stories were like flights through the stars. They had rhythm, direction, and flow. If he rushed, they became chaotic. If he paused, observed, and shaped the words, they came alive. For the next hours, Zarvok practiced. He described the forest beyond the river, the smell of wet earth, the sound of leaves brushing together. Nathaniel guided him gently. Notice small things. Do not worry about perfect words. The meaning is more important than the shape. Zarvok discovered that writing was different from thinking. In thought, he could hold a whole mountain in his mind, see every branch, every leaf, every creature. But in words, he had to choose, to simplify, to let the reader imagine what he could see. It was frustrating at first, but also thrilling. Try describing the sky, Nathaniel suggested. Not just blue, but what it feels like, what it moves, what it tells you. Zarvok closed his eyes. He remembered the sky at dawn, soft orange and pink light stretching across the horizon, the way clouds drifted like ships on calm seas. Slowly he typed, sky orange, pink, clouds float, wind gentle, light warm. Nathaniel read it aloud. Beautiful, Zarvok. You are learning to carry your vision to words. Each letter, each sentence builds the bridge between your mind and someone else's. The dragon leaned back, wings stretching slightly. He realized he had never felt so proud of something so small. Words were fragile, delicate, yet powerful. They could carry a piece of his mind, his heart, and his world to someone else. Can I try a story? Zarvok asked finally, his voice low but eager. Nathaniel nodded. Of course. Start small. One scene, one character, one feeling. We will build from there. Zarvok thought of the river, of the forest, of the small fox he had seen near the banks. Slowly he typed, fox small, fur soft, eyes bright, walks by river, looks at fish, river cool, sun warm, fox happy. Nathaniel read it aloud, smiling. Very good. You are telling a story. It is simple, yes, but it has sight, sound, feeling. It has life. This is the beginning of your own voice. Zarvok's golden eyes shone. For the first time he felt that writing could be as exciting as flight, as thrilling as discovering a hidden cave. Each word was a step, each sentence a journey. The library, once a place of failure and frustration, now felt alive with possibility. They worked late into the starry night. Nathaniel guided, corrected gently, suggested, encouraged. Zarvok grew confident, experimenting with descriptions, trying similes, and learning the rhythm of sentences. The dragon realized that storytelling was not magic, not strength, but understanding. Understanding how the world felt and how others might see it. By the end of the day, Zarvok had written a short story, simple and small, about the fox and the river. It was far from perfect, but it was his. He looked at Nathaniel. I think I can do more tomorrow. I want to learn more words, more ways to tell what I see. Nathaniel smiled warmly. And you will, Zarvok. Each day a little more. Each day a little better. The universe has many stories, but none like yours. We are only unlocking them together. The dragon leaned back, gazing at the floating library and the stars beyond. He realized something important. Writing was not a test of strength. It was a journey of patience, curiosity, and heart. And with Nathaniel guiding him, he finally understood that even a dragon could learn the language of stories. Zarvok whispered to himself almost shyly, maybe? I am ready to tell the universe what I see. The stars outside the library seemed to shimmer in response, as if encouraging the dragon who had once failed every writing trial to try again, step by step, word by word, toward stories that would one day reach across galaxies. Zarvok sat quietly in the library, his massive tail curled around a glowing pedestal. Outside, the stars twinkled softly, casting silver light across the room. The dragon's eyes, golden and bright, were fixed on the floating keyboard before him. He had practiced for many days now, learning letters, words, and sentences under Nathaniel's patient guidance. Today he felt something new, a sense of readiness, a quiet excitement buzzing in his chest. Nathaniel watched him with a gentle smile. Today, Zarvok, he said softly, you will write your first story. Not a practice, not small sentences, but a real story. Tell me what you see, what you feel, and what matters to you. The dragon took a deep breath. He thought of the river he had seen yesterday, clear and bright, flowing under the light of twin suns. He thought of the small fox that had played near the water, of the wind that whispered through the leaves, and of the mountains that rose like giants in the distance. He imagined how the world felt in that moment, the warmth of sunlight, the gentle sway of the grass, the quiet happiness of living creatures. Slowly, Zarvok lifted a claw and touched the glowing keys. Letters appeared, wobbly at first, glowing faintly. He hesitated, then typed again, carefully forming words he had learned. The river glows under the morning sun. Small fish jump in the water. The wind whispers softly through the trees. Nathaniel read it aloud, his voice soft and encouraging. Good. That is the beginning. Now add what the fox does. Zarvok thought about the little creature, its soft fur and bright eyes. He imagined it hopping over stones, watching the fish, sniffing the warm air. Slowly he typed, a small fox walks beside the river. Its fur is soft, and its eyes shine like stars. It looks at the fish and jumps over the rocks happily. Nathaniel nodded. Very good, Zarvok. Notice how you are making the story alive. You are painting pictures with words. The dragon felt a thrill he had never known before. The letters no longer twisted and disappeared. They stayed on the page, carrying his thoughts. For the first time he realized the true power of words. They could share what he felt, what he saw, what he imagined. He could give a piece of his mind and heart to someone else. Encouraged, Zarvok continued. He described the mountains beyond the river, jagged and strong, glowing in the sunlight. He described the soft rustle of leaves, the distant song of a bird, the quiet rhythm of life around the riverbank. Each sentence flowed from his mind into the glowing tablet, and for the first time he felt like a creator. Nathaniel leaned closer and whispered, remember, stories are not just about what happens but how it feels. Let the reader see the world through your eyes. Zarvok closed his eyes and imagined the river again, this time noticing the small details he had missed before. The reflection of clouds on the water, the sparkle of dew on grass, the warmth of sunlight on stones. He typed slowly, carefully, the sun touches every stone. Dew sparkles on the grass. Clouds reflect on the river like silver mirrors. Everything feels calm and alive. The dragon opened his eyes and saw the words glowing steadily on the screen. They were not perfect, not like the stories Nathaniel had written over decades, but they were his. Each word carried a part of him, a piece of his vision and feeling. Zarvok's chest swelled with pride. Nathaniel's eyes sparkled. This is your story, Zarvok. Simple, yes, but full of life. You have done it. You have created something that did not exist before. You have shared a world with someone else. Zarvok's tail twitched. He had always measured his accomplishments by strength, by skill, by the ability to conquer or survive. But this, writing a story, was different. This was creating something that could touch others, that could last beyond time, beyond stars. He realized that patience, observation, and care could be stronger than fire or claws. The dragon continued to add details to his story, describing the fox lying in the shade, the river reflecting the colors of sunset, the mountains turning gold as the day ended. He imagined the fox curling up beside the water, closing its eyes and feeling the calm of the world. Every word was deliberate, every sentence built slowly, but Zarvok felt no frustration now. He felt joy. When he finally stopped, the story glowed on the tablet. Nathaniel read it aloud, and Zarvok listened carefully. Each sentence painted a picture, each word carried feeling. The dragon realized something incredible. He had done it. He had created a world with nothing but letters in his mind. Zarvok lowered his head and looked at Nathaniel. I wrote a story, he said softly. It is mine. I can share it. Nathaniel's smile was gentle but proud. Yes, Zarvok. And now you know the most important lesson of all. Writing is not about perfection. It is about sharing your vision, your feelings, and your mind. You have done that. You have learned to tell a story. The dragon leaned back and watched the stars through the library windows. He imagined his story traveling across the galaxies, someone reading it on a distant planet and feeling what he felt beside the river, seeing the fox, the sunlight, the mountains. The thought thrilled him more than any flight or hunt. I never knew writing could feel like this, Zarvok whispered. It is alive. Nathaniel patted the dragon's massive claw. Stories are alive because they carry life. You have given life to your vision. And this is only the beginning, Zarvok. One story leads to another, one word to 1,000 more. The dragon nodded slowly, a quiet smile tugging at his lips. For the first time he felt that the impossible was possible. He had failed before many times in every test. But now, with patience, guidance, and care, he had succeeded. He had discovered the joy of creation, the thrill of sharing his mind and heart through words. The library was silent around them, except for the soft hum of floating books and the twinkle of stars outside. Zarvok looked at Nathaniel and whispered, Tomorrow I will write again. I want to see what else I can share. Nathaniel's smile widened. And I will be here, Zarvok, guiding you as long as you wish. Together we will discover stories the universe has never heard. Zarvok's golden eyes shone with determination and joy. For the first time he understood that writing was not a test or a challenge to conquer. It was a gift, a bridge, a way to share himself with the stars. And with Nathaniel by his side, the dragon knew he had only just begun. The stars outside seemed to glimmer brighter, as if celebrating the dragon who had finally written his first story, a small but shining world of words born from his mind and heart. Zarvok stretched his wings and looked out at the stars. The library floated quietly in space, far from any planet, yet full of life and possibility. The dragon's golden eyes reflected the distant suns, but now they also held something new, pride and understanding. For the first time he realized that writing was not only about learning letters and sentences. It was about sharing a part of himself with the universe. Nathaniel stood beside him, leaning on his cane, smiling quietly. "You have come a long way, Zarvok," he said softly. "From letters that vanish to stories that live. Do you feel it?" Zarvok nodded. "I do. Words are more than shapes on a page. They are life. I can share what I feel, what I see. I can touch others without moving my claws or breathing fire." Nathaniel chuckled. "Exactly. That is humanity's gift. We cannot fly through storms or breathe fire like you. But we have patience, curiosity, and the ability to share what we feel. That is what makes stories alive." The dragon thought of all the creatures he had met in the galaxy, the scholars who doubted him, the dragons who had succeeded before him, and the humans who had taught him patience. Writing had seemed impossible, and yet, with Nathaniel's guidance, he had done it. He had written his first story and it had a life of its own. "Now," Nathaniel said, "it is time to share your stories. The universe is listening." Zarvok felt a thrill in his chest. He had imagined sharing stories before, but it had seemed like a distant dream. Now, with Nathaniel beside him, he knew it was possible. The dragon lifted a claw and activated the library's communication crystals. His first story, the river, the fox, the mountains, and the sunlight, glowed brightly, ready to travel across the galaxies. As the word spread, Zarvok watched carefully. On distant planets, in faraway star systems, creatures of all kinds read his story. Some were curious, some were amazed, and some smiled quietly, imagining the fox by the river just as he had described it. The dragon realized that stories were not limited by species, by planet, or by language. They carried feeling, vision, and imagination. Nathaniel placed a hand on Zarvok's claw. "Do you see? Your words can touch lives. This is the gift of sharing, something humans have learned over centuries. Even small acts, patience, guidance, encouragement, can create something that changes the universe." Zarvok lowered his head, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with fire. He realized that Nathaniel, a small human among stars, had opened a door to something extraordinary. It was not magic, not strength, not even skill. It was kindness, patience, and the willingness to teach. Over the next days, Zarvok wrote more stories. He described the first snowfall on a distant planet, the laughter of children watching floating fish, and the quiet courage of a tiny bird facing a storm. Each story traveled through the galaxy, reaching beings who had never met a dragon, never met a human, but could feel what they had shared. Zarvok began to understand that humans were unique in the universe. Not because of strength, size, or magic, but because of their ability to nurture, teach, and inspire. Nathaniel had given him more than words. He had given him the confidence to create, to share, and to believe in himself. One evening, Zarvok sat beside Nathaniel, the library quiet around them. "I never thought I could do this," the dragon said softly. "I failed every trial, and yet, here I am sharing my stories across the stars." Nathaniel nodded. "That is what makes humans special. We see potential in others even when they cannot see it themselves. We give guidance, patience, and understanding. That is our gift." Zarvok looked at the floating tablet in front of him, filled with his stories. He thought of the countless beings who had read them, who had smiled, imagined, or felt something new. He realized that success was not about passing a test. It was about connection. It was about giving a part of oneself to the universe. "I understand now," Zarvok whispered. "Strength and skill are not everything. What matters is sharing, helping, and inspiring. That is true power." Nathaniel smiled. "And now you know it, Zarvok. You are no longer just a dragon who failed every writing trial. You are a storyteller. And your stories will live long after we are gone." The dragon leaned back, feeling a quiet joy. He realized that the universe was vast and full of challenges, but small acts of patience and kindness could ripple across stars. Nathaniel had shown him this truth, and Zarvok now carried it forward. He picked up his claw again and typed a new story, describing a sunset over a floating city, a child watching the sky, and a tiny dog chasing light across the streets. As the words glowed, he felt a thrill unlike anything before. The story would travel to planets he had never visited, to beings he had never met, and yet it would carry the feeling of that moment, the vision of his heart. Nathaniel watched, proud and quiet. He knew that Zarvok had discovered something humans had always known, that even in a vast universe, one being could touch another, one story could inspire millions, and one act of teaching could change everything. Zarvok paused, looking at Nathaniel. "Thank you," he said softly. "I would not have learned this without you." Nathaniel smiled and nodded. "And you will continue the gift, Zarvok. Teach others, share your stories, and inspire the universe. That is humanity's gift to the stars." The dragon gazed out at the stars again. For the first time he felt that he was part of something greater than himself. His stories, his words, and his heart were now traveling across galaxies, touching lives in ways he could never have imagined. And he understood that even the smallest act, a human sitting beside him showing him patience, could become a legacy that reached the farthest corners of the universe. As the library floated silently among the stars, Zarvok typed another sentence, then another. The glow of the letters filled the room, reflecting in his golden eyes. He was no longer a dragon who failed every writing trial. He was a storyteller, carrying the gift of humanity to the stars, one word at a time. And somewhere across the galaxy, someone smiled as they read his words, unaware of the dragon who had written them, unaware of the human who had taught him, but feeling the warmth and wonder of a world brought to life by patience, care, and the simple gift of teaching.